Hi, my name is Miles Bricker,
And I am Alex Maron.
and this is our documentary about fighting hate crimes in the Bay Area.
We noticed that hate crimes have been decreasing since 2001, but are back on the rise in 2023, and we need to do something about this.
First, we will be identifying hate crimes locally and nationally and what a hate crime actually is.
You might have an idea of what we were talking about, but at the same time, you could be thinking of something else, known as a hate incident.
The correct definition, according to the Oxford Dictionary, a hate crime is a crime, typically one involving violence, that is motivated by prejudice on the basis of ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or similar grounds.
These are very commonly confused with hate incidents, such as a slur or microaggression.
Now that we have gotten the definition out of the way, we are here to tell you that hate crimes are a huge problem in our community, and this documentary is going to be a call to action for our community so we can stop these immoral acts.
In addition to a call to action, we will try our best to come up with a solution grounded by accurate evidence from all over the internet to help reduce these events so no other generations have to deal with them, and additionally try and reduce stereotypes.
So basically, what are stereotypes? The basis of stereotypes comes from generally associating people together by their race and physical attributes.
Expound on that, Miles, because I'm a little curious what the difference between stereotypes and directed hate crimes are.
Yeah, well, of course. According to the Psychological Causes and Effects of Hate Crimes by Richard L. McWhorter, there's something called the outgroup homogeneity effect, in which people tend to see members of groups that they are not a part of as more homogeneous than members of their own group, which basically sums up stereotyping. This basically means that you don't see the differences in between people and other races, like how a white person might say that all Asian people are the same or act the same, while being able to see differences in your own race.
Now, while we know this, people continually end up stereotyping people. Whether they do it on purpose or not, it is still there and can turn into the motivation for unnecessary hate crimes.
And this is where you can help to do your part in stopping the unnecessary profiling of people that may look different than you.
That's completely right, Miles. We all have a responsibility to try and change how we think of others for the better. Next time that you find yourself assuming something about someone else that you don't know is completely true, try to rethink of why you assume that about them.
That's a very good point. The only way we'll ever know the truth is if we look at the situation from a different angle. It's almost like there's always two sides to a story. For example, if you only get the story from one person, it is most likely to lean towards their beliefs of what happened.
The first thing that we can do to help fight against these biases is educating ourselves on it. The more you know, the more you will recognize when you are unconsciously being biased.
And this doesn't only apply to yourself. The best way to spread awareness is giving others advice on how they're being biased.
Sometimes it can be hard to know where to start educating yourself, and that's true for everybody. Everyone just has to take steps outside of their comfort zone to make a difference.
Exactly. The most effective way to educate yourself is to create new experiences. Everybody needs exposure to something that they are new to and they're trying to learn.
On top of that, reading is another powerful way that people have expressed their experiences. It's through writing. There are amazing books that will help you start to remove the root of your unconscious biases.
Websites and organizations are also a great source to find information too. You can find information for almost anything you want on the web. We will list some of the sources we think will impact your decisions in the future. And now moving on from how you can educate yourself, if you ever find yourself in a tricky situation where you are a witness to a hateful act or a hate crime, the first and most important out of everything you could do is just act against their statement. This can take many forms and doesn't have to just be saying something like, "I don't agree."
That's right. Silence is the worst thing you can do in this situation, because if you or nobody else acts, the perpetrator will think you all agree and continue with their egregious acts. In addition, other people with the same views that are too scared to speak up may express their feelings as well.
And you never have to act alone. When you join forces with multiple people and all step up, it will be even more powerful than just a single person objecting.
And speaking of joining forces, this is why we reached out to
racial
Justice,
justice,
an organization into working that responds and effectively works against hate crimes. We interviewed one of their associates, Lisa, about hate crimes.
Was there anything in particular that she talked about, Alex?
Well, Miles, I had a great talk with her talking about spreading awareness about hate crimes in Marin and San Francisco, and that Surge was an available place for anyone who underwent a hate crime or was just a bystander and saw it happen but didn't want to actually act up in the moment. And as well, there's other places like going against like Asian hate crimes. Like donating to any of these or just like spreading around the general knowledge of this could also like help prevent and reduce hate crimes.
Got it. And of course, using these sources could help reduce the effects of hate crimes and create more severe penalties for the perpetrators.
After a hate incident or crime occurs, it's not just important to oppose the perpetrator, but equally important to repair the damage that was caused by the attack. This can be anything to make them feel like are welcomed.
And it's even better if you can get the perpetrator themselves to repair the damage. This can help the perpetrator rethink their actions and see the effects they have on someone, and maybe change their views in the future.
These can all be applied to both hate crimes and hate incidents, but specifically if you are a witness of a hate crime, it is crucial that you report it to local police and activist groups. If consequences are implemented, then the perpetrators are likely to not do it again.
All of these things are great for helping spread awareness for hate crimes. Beyond awareness, we are also looking for a solution to help decrease the amount of hate crimes that occur.
Yes, we found that there is a pattern for when the most hate crimes occur. According to David Stacey, hate crimes occur during a period of heightened rhetoric, like a presidential election.
He summed up that point with, whenever a vulnerable group is given national attention, whether the attention is positive or negative, it doesn't matter. People who are biased against that group
This can be
may
seen in
lash out.
2019 when COVID-19 broke out in China, and it can also be seen during the attacks of 9/11 in 2001.
So what do you think we can do about this?
This is a very difficult question that's almost impossible to find an answer to. But one of the best shots we have is to get representatives in office who follow and promote unbiased opinions.
On that point, do you have any way to enforce that the representatives in the office have a non-biased opinion?
There's no true way to completely enforce this, and that is the reality of the situation. But it is our job to put the best people in the position of power. And an example of this is when George Bush responded to Muslim hate 6 days after 9/11, as shown in this news clip.
What we found, let me just go back to the data for a second. Listen to this. President Bush spoke 6 days after 9/11 about tolerance towards Muslims. Hate crimes dropped by 2/3 the next day and 2/3 the next year against our Muslim friends and neighbors. When he spoke after the San Bernardino terrorist attack, as I said, we had an increase. What we need is something sustained. I wish his message at the top talked about white supremacy in the same way that he would have talked about violent Salafist jihadists. He was very tough on President Obama for not saying what he thought the terrorism threat was. I think now the tables are turned. Mr. Trump.
The law needs some work too. The penalties for misdemeanor hate crimes are too little to have very much of an effect on people's choices. Instead of the $5,000 fine that it is currently, it should be increased to a $10,000 fine. And instead of up to 1 year in jail, it should be up to 3.
Now, we have a possible other solution than just making the penalties more daunting to criminals. If the solution to stop being able to stereotype is to educate yourself, we were thinking about, instead of a normal fine or community service punishment, hate crime offenders should be forced to attend rallies, read books, and create bonds with more diverse people. On top of this, they should also have to volunteer for groups that support hate victims.
What inspired us to think of this new and different type of punishment was inspired by inmates in Brazil who can read books and write reports on them to shorten their sentences. We believe that this could be the solution to cutting down hate crime numbers tremendously.
Let me explain our theory. Many hate crimes occur from hate groups or extremist groups. If one of their members is captured after committing a hate crime and they are forced to expose themselves and change their views, then when they return to society, they will feel entitled to show their extremist friends what they're doing is wrong.
This is the best case scenario. Even in the worst case scenario, at least we have changed the views of one person who used to be a threat to others. Now let's get to the part of how this plan is going to work.
Since the plan wouldn't work with the criminal being on house arrest because they still could have the influence from their extremist groups to fake the work, so we must come up with a way to make sure that the message from the education sticks.
We believe that the best way for this is either solitary confinement or a different wing of a prison designated to hate crime criminals.
This solution is only for after the hate crime occurs and somebody is convicted. But we believe that we can target the origin of the hate from the beginning by having stricter rules for social media.
Before we get into this, we will have a 6th grader from Hall explain his experience with social media and some of the racism it promotes.
Hello, this is our guest who will be talking about social media in his youth.
My name is Colin Brecker, and I go to Hall Middle School.
All right, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions about social media. So the first question is,
Have you seen any like racist content while you've used social media?
I have seen racist content towards to other races.
Is it like are the jokes like do you think they like actually mean what they're saying, or are they just making people laugh?
Trying to make people laugh.
Yeah, but do you see the fact that it's still like bringing light to racism, and it's like kind of normalizing it in today's society?
Yes, I have.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad thing.
Do you think social media has impacted like the youth's brains in normalizing racist jokes?
Yeah.
How do you see this happening?
People posting racist jokes, and then other people think that it's okay to say that stuff when it's really not.
Do you have any personal experiences of this?
No.
No? Like anybody at all? I've heard there's like a lot of kids who's been suspended for racism at all.
Yeah, the 8th graders and 7th graders, the older kids.
All right.
Now, Colin described it as jokes made and posted on social media, and that there isn't much harm behind them. However, this is still promoting and normalizing racism in today's youth, implanting it into their brains, and they think it's okay.
Yes, this is a huge problem in our new society. Too many kids have exposure to social media. Social media itself is not the problem, but some of the stuff that can be seen on there is.
All of this technology is completely new to us, along with the social media. Our solution is to get parents to implement more restrictions on their children's use on social media, or restrictions such as child mode, where the content they see goes through a filter. We also think that the big companies that are creating these social media platforms should be forced to monitor what content gets posted on their forum more closely.
We are starting to try to get this into the law by contacting a congressman by the name of Jared Huffman with this video to hopefully initiate some changes around how social media is controlled.
Well, this brings us to the end of our public service announcement and our ideas for change within our community. We hope you take some of the suggestions we had into consideration in the following years of your life.
We really hope that people who see this take it seriously and help with the problem our world has with unnecessary hate. Once again, all of our sources will be linked in the description below, along with organizations to help support victims of hate crimes and punish offenders.
Thank you for watching.